No one expected the waitress to move. She was supposed to hide, like everyone else. But when masked men burst into the restaurant and rifles were raised at a billionaire diner, she stepped forward instead. With nothing but a serving tray and instinct, she turned chaos into control. Right before the police arrived to change everything. The Everest room was known for silence, soft music, expensive suits, and whispered deals. Lily Thompson blended in perfectly, refilling glasses and avoiding attention. Her pale face remained expressionless as she moved between tables, ice blue eyes scanning exits out of habit, never lingering on any one customer for too long. The faint scar through her left eyebrow was the only mark that hinted at something more than the uniform she wore, but no one ever looked closely enough to wonder. She carried a silver tray balanced on one hand, approaching table 7, where Andrew Feely sat alone. The billionaire hadn't looked up from his phone in 20 minutes. Dark auburn hair, tailored suit with rolled sleeves, scarred hands resting on the white tablecloth. He was a regular. Always the same table. Always alone. Always watching the door. Lily refilled his water glass without a word. He nodded once. She turned away. Then the doors exploded open. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. 3 masked men stormed through the entrance, rifles raised, voices roaring commands that cut through the Mozart playing overhead. Black tactical gear, balaclavas, practiced movements. One swept left, one right, one straight down the center aisle. Customers screamed. Chairs toppled backward as bodies hit the floor. A woman near the bar sobbed into her hands. Everyone down. Hands where we can see them. Lily's body reacted before her mind caught up. The tray slipped from her fingers, clattering against the marble floor. Her knees bent slightly, weight shifting forward onto the balls of her feet. Muscle memory. Training she'd spent 5 years trying to forget. The man in the center aimed his rifle directly at Andrew Feely. "You," the gunman barked. "Stand up." Slowly. Andrew's tired eyes lifted. No fear, just cold calculation. He rose from his chair, hands visible, movements deliberate. The kind of composure that came from expecting betrayal. Lily's pulse was steady. Too steady. She counted 3 hostiles. Semi-automatic rifles. Professional stance, but overconfident spacing. The one on the left kept glancing toward the kitchen. Nervous. The one on the right had his finger outside the trigger guard. Mistake. The center one was focused entirely on Andrew, tunnel vision narrowing his peripheral awareness. She should stay down, blend in, survive quietly like she'd promised herself she would. But her feet were already moving. The nearest gunman, the nervous one on the left, didn't notice her until she was 3 steps away. By then it was too late. Lily's hand shot out, grabbing the rifle barrel and twisting hard to the left while her other hand drove the serving tray's edge into his throat. He choked, stumbling backward. She stripped the weapon from his grip in one fluid motion and swung the rifle, but into his temple. He dropped. The second gunman spun toward her, shouting. Lily dove low, using a toppled chair as cover, then launched herself forward. She closed the distance in 2 seconds. Her shoulder slammed into his ribs, driving him into the wall. His rifle clattered to the floor. She swept his legs out from under him and drove her elbow into the side of his head. He went limp. The third man, the one who'd been aiming at Andrew, finally reacted. He pivoted, finger moving to the trigger. Andrew threw himself sideways behind the table. Lily was faster. She grabbed a wine bottle from the nearest table and hurled it. Glass exploded against the gunman's shoulder. He flinched. She charged. Her kick connected with his wrist. The rifle flew from his hands, skidding across the floor toward the bar. He threw a punch. She blocked it, countered with a strike to his solar plexus, then hooked his ankle and sent him crashing onto a table. Crystal shattered. He rolled, reaching for a backup pistol at his hip. Lily was already there. She pinned his arm, twisted until she heard the joint strain, and slammed his face into the table once, twice. He went still. The restaurant fell silent except for ragged breathing and muffled sobs. Lily stood in the center of the dining room, hands steady, eyes scanning for additional threats. None. She counted 8 customers, 2 waitstaff cowering behind the bar, 1 chef peeking through the kitchen window. All alive, all staring at her. Andrew Feely pushed himself upright, brushing glass from his suit. His expression was unreadable, but his gaze lingered on Lily longer than it ever had before. Then came the sound of approaching footsteps. Heavy boots. Multiple sets. Lily's body tensed, ready to move again, until she saw the tactical vests, the badges, the unmistakable letters. Police. A gray-haired officer entered first, weapon drawn, but lowering as he took in the scene. 3 unconscious gunmen. 1 waitress standing perfectly still. No casualties. Jesus Christ, the officer muttered. Behind him, more officers flooded in, securing the room, checking pulses, snapping handcuffs on her wrists. Lily didn't resist when one of them gently took her arm and guided her toward a chair. She sat. Her hands were clean. No shaking. The tattoo on her inner wrist, per aspera ad astra, caught the restaurant's dim lighting. One of the customers, an older man in a pinstripe suit, was still holding his phone. He'd been recording. I called 911 the second they came through the door, he said quietly to the officer. She saved us all. Andrew Feely was being questioned near the bar. His voice was low, controlled. I don't know why they targeted me specifically, but I know who I trust. His eyes found Lily across the room. The lead officer knelt beside her. Ma'am, I need you to tell me what happened. Lily's voice was steady, almost emotionless. They came through the front entrance. Threatened customers. I neutralized the threat. Neutralized, the officer repeated, glancing at the 3 unconscious men now being hauled to their feet and dragged outside. You have training? She didn't answer immediately. Then, barely audible, I used to. The officer studied her face, the scar, the unshakable calm, the way her eyes never stopped moving. He nodded slowly. We'll need a full statement. But for now, thank you. Lily said nothing. She stared at the floor, wishing she could disappear again. But she knew that wasn't possible anymore. Not after tonight. The Everest room had become a crime scene within minutes. Yellow tape stretched across the shattered entrance. Forensic teams moved through the dining area, photographing overturned tables, shattered glass, bloodstains on white tablecloths. Outside, red and blue lights painted the street in stuttering bursts of color. News vans were already arriving, cameras trained on the restaurant's facade. Lily sat in the kitchen, wrapped in a thermal blanket someone had draped over her shoulders, despite the fact she wasn't shivering. A detective stood across from her, notepad in hand, asking questions she answered in clipped, factual sentences. Name, age, how long she'd worked here, what she remembered. She didn't mention the classified mission in Kandahar. She didn't mention the dishonorable discharge that was quietly amended to honorable after lawyers got involved. She didn't mention the 2 years she'd spent learning how to blend into civilian life, how to stop scanning rooftops, how to sleep without a weapon within arm's reach. You moved fast, the detective said, not unkindly. Most people freeze. I didn't think, Lily replied. It was the truth. Thinking would have stopped her. Thinking would have reminded her why she'd walked away from all of this. Through the kitchen window, she could see Andrew Feely speaking with a different set of officers. Federal agents, judging by the suits. His expression was harder now, more guarded. One of the agents kept gesturing toward the 3 arrested gunmen, who were being loaded into separate vehicles. Then Lily noticed something that made her pulse spike. A 4th man was being walked out in handcuffs. Not masked, no tactical gear, just a dark suit and pale, unreadable eyes. He moved with the stiff posture of someone who knew he'd lost. Ethan Williams, Andrew's head of security, the man who was supposed to protect him. Who's that? Lily asked, nodding toward the window. The detective followed her gaze, and his jaw tightened. That's the reason this whole thing happened. Lily's hands closed into fists beneath the blanket. The detective leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. We found communications on one of the gunmen's phones. Encrypted, but not well enough. Ethan Williams coordinated the entire attack. Times, entry points, Andrew Feely's exact seating location. He fed them everything. Why? Lily's voice was flat. Money. A lot of it. Someone paid him to set this up. The detective paused, then added, the gunmen are already talking. Plea deals, reduced sentences, they're giving up names fast. This goes higher than we thought. Lily watched through the window as Ethan was shoved into the back of an unmarked sedan. His face was blank. No remorse. No fear. Just cold acceptance. Who paid him? She asked. We're working on that. The detective's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, frowned, then looked back at Lily. You're going to want to stay available. This isn't over. But for Lily, the fight was. She'd done what her instincts demanded. She'd protected people who couldn't protect themselves. And now the invisible life she'd built was shattered, just like the restaurant front door. Andrew Feely appeared in the kitchen doorway. The federal agents had finished with him. He looked older now, tired in a way that wealth couldn't mask. His gaze found Lily, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, he said, You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? Lily met his eyes, her own ice blue and unreadable. Because no one else would. Andrew studied her, the scar, the lean frame, the way she sat perfectly still despite the chaos around her. You're not just a waitress. I am now. That's not what I saw tonight. Lily didn't respond. She turned her gaze back to the window, where crime scene techs were still working under floodlights. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. The city was waking up to a story it didn't understand yet. Andrew reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He sat on the counter beside her. When you're ready to talk, call me. Lily glanced at the card but didn't pick it up. Andrew nodded once, then left. She sat alone in the kitchen for another 20 minutes before the detective cleared her to go home. As she walked through the restaurant, past overturned chairs and shattered glass, she caught sight of her reflection in a cracked mirror near the bar. Her uniform was torn. Blood, none of it hers, stained the white fabric. Her hair had come loose from its bun, but her face was calm, expressionless. She looked like the person she'd tried so hard to stop being. Outside, the night air was cold. Lily walked past the news crews, ignoring the shouted questions, and disappeared into the shadows between buildings. She didn't go home. She walked for hours, moving through empty streets, trying to outrun the adrenaline still humming in her veins. By the time dawn broke over the city, Lily Thompson knew 3 things with absolute certainty. Her life would never be quiet again. Someone powerful had tried to kill Andrew Feely, and she just made herself a target by stopping them. The headlines hit before Lily even woke up. Waitress hero stops assassination attempt at luxury restaurant. Billionaire Andrew Feely saved by mystery woman. Who is Lily Thompson? Her phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. Text messages from coworkers, voicemails from reporters, emails from strangers offering congratulations, job opportunities, even marriage proposals. She silenced the phone and stared at the ceiling of her small apartment. The news cycle was relentless. By noon, her face was everywhere. Grainy security footage from the restaurant, a photo from her employee file, even an old military ID picture that someone had leaked. The press didn't have the full story, but they had enough. Former soldier. Dishonorable discharge later overturned. Years of silence. Then one night of violence that saved lives. Lily stayed inside. She made coffee she didn't drink and stared at the business card Andrew Feely had left on her counter. She hadn't called. She didn't know what she'd say. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Thompson, this is Agent Sarah Ortiz with the FBI. The voice was professional, clipped. We need you to come in for a follow-up interview. There have been developments. What kind of developments? The kind we discuss in person. Can you be at our field office in an hour? Lily glanced at the clock. Yes. Good. We'll have a car pick you up. The line went dead. The FBI field office was a gray concrete building downtown, surrounded by security barriers and armed guards. Lily was escorted through metal detectors, down fluorescent-lit hallways, and into a small conference room with no windows. Agent Ortiz was waiting, mid-40s, sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. Sit, Ortiz said, not unkindly. Lily sat. Ortiz placed a manila folder on the table and opened it. Inside were photographs. Ethan Williams, the three masked gunmen, and one more face Lily didn't recognize. An older man with salt and pepper hair and cold, empty eyes. Joseph Benson, Ortiz said. Ever heard of him? No. Old money. East Coast elite. Made his fortune in real estate and corporate acquisitions. He's also the man who orchestrated the attack on the Everest room. Lily's expression didn't change, but her hands tightened slightly on the armrests. Ortiz continued. Ethan Williams cracked under interrogation. Gave us everything. Benson paid him $2 million to set up Andrew Feely for assassination. The gunmen were hired through intermediaries, ex-military contractors with no direct ties to Benson. Clean. Deniable. Except Ethan kept records. Why did Benson want Feely dead? Revenge. Pride. Take your pick. Ortiz leaned back in her chair. 5 years ago, Feely outbid Benson for a major energy contract in Southeast Asia. Benson lost billions. He's been waiting for the right moment to strike back ever since. And now he's in custody. We arrested him early this morning at his estate in Connecticut. He's facing federal charges, conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, wire fraud. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Lily absorbed this in silence. Then she asked, "Why are you telling me this?" Ortiz smiled faintly. "Because you deserve to know. You stopped a murder. You exposed a criminal conspiracy. You did our job for us. I was just trying to survive. That's what heroes always say." Lily stood. "If that's all, one more thing." Ortiz slid another photograph across the table. It showed Andrew Feely shaking hands with a government official outside a courthouse. "Mr. Feely has been very vocal about what you did. He's already issued a public statement thanking you. The media is eating it up. You're going to be famous whether you like it or not." Lily stared at the photograph. "I don't want to be famous." "Then you should probably talk to Mr. Feely. He's been trying to reach you." Lily left the FBI building and walked for blocks, trying to process everything. Joseph Benson, a man she'd never met, had tried to kill someone, and she'd been the obstacle in his way. Ethan Williams, the trusted security chief, had betrayed the man he was supposed to protect. And now the entire town, no, the entire country, was watching her. She found herself standing outside the Everest room. The broken door had been boarded up. Yellow police tape still crisscrossed the entrance. A small memorial had sprung up on the sidewalk. Flowers, candles, handwritten notes thanking her for what she'd done. One note read, "You reminded us that courage still exists." Lily didn't feel courageous. She felt exposed. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. It was a message from Andrew Feely. "I'd like to speak with you. Not as a customer. As someone who owes you his life. Please." She stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back, "Where?" His response was immediate. "My office. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll send a car." Lily pocketed her phone and walked home through streets that no longer felt anonymous. People stared. Some pointed. One woman stopped her to say thank you. Lily nodded and kept moving. That night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about the path she tried to leave behind and the one that was now opening in front of her. She'd spent 5 years hiding. 5 years trying to be invisible. But invisibility was no longer an option. The car arrived at 9:45 a.m., a black sedan with tinted windows and a driver who didn't make small talk. Lily sat in the back seat, watching the city scroll past. She dressed simply, jeans, a dark sweater, boots. No uniform, no armor, just herself. Andrew Feely's office was on the 40th floor of a glass tower downtown. The elevator ride was silent. Lily's reflection stared back at her from the polished walls. Pale face, ice blue eyes, scar cutting through her left eyebrow. She looked the same as always. But nothing was the same. The elevator doors opened. Andrew was waiting in the lobby. No suit today, just slacks and a white button-down, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked less like a billionaire and more like someone who'd survived something he hadn't expected to. "Thank you for coming," he said. Lily nodded. He led her through a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. His private office was massive. Minimalist furniture, shelves filled with books and artifacts, a desk that looked older than the building itself. He gestured to a chair across from the desk. She sat. He didn't sit behind the desk. Instead, he took the chair beside her. "I've been thinking about what to say to you for 3 days," Andrew began. "I've rehearsed speeches, drafted emails. None of it felt right." Lily waited. "So I'll just say this. You saved my life, and I want to repay that. You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "I've spent my entire career building walls around myself. Money, security, influence. I thought that made me safe. Then one night, all of it failed. My own head of security tried to have me killed, and the person who stopped it was someone I'd never even spoken to. I did what anyone would have done." "No." Andrew leaned forward. "You did what almost no one would have done. You risked your life for a stranger. That's not common. That's extraordinary." Lily looked away, uncomfortable. "I don't want a reward." "Then what do you want?" The question hung in the air. Lily thought about the apartment she'd been hiding in for 5 years. The waitress uniform she'd used as camouflage. The quiet, invisible life she'd built to escape her past. "I want a choice," she said finally. "I spent years taking orders. Then I spent years hiding. I want to choose my own path for once." Andrew nodded slowly. "Then let me offer you one. Not as charity, as an opportunity." He stood and walked to his desk, pulling a folder from a drawer. He handed it to Lily. Inside was a contract. "I'm rebuilding my security team from the ground up," Andrew said. "New protocols, new personnel, people I can trust. I want you to lead it." Lily stared at the document. "I'm not a bodyguard." "No, you're better than that. You're someone who sees danger before it happens. Someone who acts without hesitation. Someone who protects people because it's the right thing to do, not because it's a paycheck." Lily flipped through the contract. The salary was staggering. Full benefits, autonomy in hiring and operations, control over her own team. "And if I say no?" she asked. "Then I'll thank you again and wish you well." Andrew's voice softened. "But I think you're tired of hiding, Lily. I think you want something more." She closed the folder and looked at him. For the first time since the attack, she allowed herself to consider the possibility that her life didn't have to be defined by what she was running from. Maybe it could be defined by what she was running toward. "I have conditions," she said. "Name them." "I choose my own team. I answer only to you. And if something feels wrong, I have the authority to shut it down. No questions asked." Andrew extended his hand. "Deal." Lily shook it. 2 weeks later, the story broke nationwide. Andrew Feely held a press conference outside the newly renovated Everest room. Cameras clicked. Reporters shouted questions. And standing beside him, calm and composed, was Lily Thompson. Andrew spoke first. 3 weeks ago, someone tried to take my life. They failed because of one person's courage. Today, I'm proud to announce that Lily Thompson will be leading my new security team. Not because I owe her, though I do, but because she's the best person for the job. He stepped aside. Lily took the microphone. Her voice was steady, clear. "I'm not a hero," she said. "I'm someone who did what needed to be done. And I'll keep doing it, because people deserve to feel safe. Because trust matters. And because the hardest thing we can do is choose not to look away when it would be easier." The crowd erupted in applause. Lily handed the microphone back and stepped away from the podium. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just walked back inside the restaurant, where her new team was waiting. That night, Lily stood on the balcony of her new apartment, a place she'd chosen herself, with windows that overlooked the city. She thought about the person she'd been, invisible, silent, hidden, and she thought about the person she was becoming, seen, trusted, necessary. Her phone buzzed. A message from Andrew. "Thank you for everything." Lily typed back, "Thank you for giving me a reason to stop hiding." She pocketed the phone and looked out at the city lights stretching toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, people were going about their lives, working, laughing, surviving. And for the first time in years, Lily Thompson felt like she was part of that world again. Not as a soldier following orders, not as a waitress hiding in plain sight, but as someone who'd chosen her path, and she wasn't looking back. Sometimes, The strongest heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they carry trays. And sometimes, when the world demands it, they step forward. Not because they have to, but because they can. If you enjoyed this story, we'd appreciate it if you support us with a like and subscribe to our channel, Twister Stories. We need to get this channel to 1,000 very soon. Kindly help us achieve that. Thank you. Comment from what place you're watching us. Thanks for your unconditional support in every story. Blessings to you and your family.